Bad vibes. If you ask me.
The worst vibes.
I think the camera's rolling.
It's not even English.
We love it.
I'll go first. Okay. FGM brings purity and justice from screaming.
I read it and I was like,
FGM brings purity and chastity. I think that is something, a myth perpetuated obviously by the patriarchy, who are the root of most of our problems.
Okay, so I think this whole idea that chastity and FGM go hand in hand is very problematic because it's just another way to violently control women's sexuality.
Most of the victims of FGM are between the ages of 5 and 15, so why are we even thinking about purity and chastity with young girls? That obviously there are other concerns and things that we should be putting before a 5-year-old's purity.
Agreed.
That is of course rubbish.
Agreed.
And it's interesting, why is it that we use these words of purity only on women and girls, and why is it that we are always trying to control women and girls' sexuality and how they move and how they behave and how they kind of go through life, but we don't give that same energy to boys and men?
Yeah, shit is rubbish because just bringing purity and chastity into everything, especially when it's done on like really young girls.
Yeah.
I don't think someone who is 3 years old or a baby, I don't think purity and chastity should be the main concern.
Yeah, exactly.
Over health.
And it causes a lot of other issues for women, such as near death during childbirth, if not death.
Yeah.
So we can't sit here and tell me that it's purity and chastity when it comes to FGM.
Ultimately is another way that the system controls women, and I think and doing FGM in that we can see a physical transformation of women, I think is also another important aspect of the different ways that the patriarchy controls women.
It comes down kind of like a structure, like men reinforce it to like women, and then those same women kind of reinforce it to like their daughters.
Yeah, like where did that even come from? I don't think women thought one day that women need to be pure.
Yeah.
That's obviously something that's come from a man that's thought, hang on a minute, we know how to make these women more pure. Like it just, bad vibes. If you ask me.
The worst vibes.
Those conversations should happen not only with women but with men as well, because if you think FGM makes you more pure just so your husband can find you that way, it's that very same gender that needs to kind of reinforce, like FGM doesn't.
I agree. Preach! That leads us on to FGM is done for health reasons.
It's not done for health reasons. Like, firstly, like straight off the bat, it's just not. It's actually a fact that it isn't.
I feel like that's bullshit.
So I find that one really really
offensive.
gets to me. Yeah, because it actually causes health issues. And it's used as an excuse to do it, which doesn't make any sense.
Can kind of lead a woman to go through like traumatic experiences, which could lead to mental health issues.
Yeah.
And like women suffer from like depression and stuff like that. Which,
It can affect a woman throughout her whole life, and no one really discusses that. The issues that they face like on a daily basis based on pain, menstruation issues, childbirth, can affect relationships, sexual intercourse. There's just so many problems that come from it, and it wasn't done for a health reason anyway.
And the definition of FGM in itself is it's done for non-medical reasons.
Yeah.
So there is no medical benefits into it.
To violate a young woman in that way and then claim it's for health benefits, I think is a complete insult to the young women that have been affected by it and continue to be affected by it today.
FGM is only done in a few developing countries.
Lies.
Racism!
A form of white supremacy, because if we're attributing certain acts to specific countries, we're taking away from what the actual harm is.
A lot of the times when we think about developing countries, suddenly everyone thinks Africa, and it's kind of it's getting a bit boring. You know, we need to play the next song because this idea that Africa is a developing country. First of all, it's a continent, so we need to get that right.
Even though it says developing, a lot of the time that is considered to just be Africa, and it happens across the world.
Yeah.
It happens in Latin America, happens in Asia, you're right, it happens in the UK, the US, Australia, other places, and it's just doing it a disservice, and I think it just pushes the conversation away from people, because they're like, that's what happens over there, and that's a problem in itself.
The concept of like developing, non-developing, I feel like, why is that even something to speak about. It's just a weak argument, and I feel like it's kind of used as a deterrent away from the actual health complications.
That's so true. I agree. Like, why does it matter? Like, why does it matter what country it's happening in? Apart from the fact that we need to look at the geographical areas. But we don't
try to combat it. But like in any other argument, I feel like it should just be rendered void. Like,
that's so true. Yeah, I agree.
And I also think phrases like this, we need to get to the bottom of the intention of why people are trying to make it a developing country issue. I feel like it's to dehumanise the people that are involved, because it puts them in an atmosphere so far from where we are in comfortable London, to make it an issue that isn't any of our business, and also something that communities should be dealing with themselves. When actually it's a global issue that we should all be part of.
FGM is a religious requirement.
A religious requirement. Rose just like, no, but it isn't. It's not. And again, I say this all the time, but like, I just want to see one place where it's one
book,
literally one religious text where it's written, because it isn't. So it's actually a misinterpretation that has become like the narrative.
It predates religion, and it used to happen in Egyptian times. It used to happen in non-religious contexts, such as the UK during the 1950s and the 60s. So is it a case that actually is part of religion? Well, the evidence against shows that it's not. So
we should be working together to tackle some of the myths that some religious leaders do perpetuate, and I think that's a really important part of the conversation.
Even though FGM like predates religion, the fact that those religious leaders are the ones saying point blank period or FGM is permissible, I feel like people will just naturally listen to it, which shouldn't be the case, because as you said, it all goes back to predating religion.
So we need to target those religious leaders and bring all these different stakeholders into the conversation to kind of combat these ideas.
There's an important part in including religious leaders in the conversation, because they have some responsibility in kind of debunking that myth.
Most of these religious leaders are men. So I feel like those burning conversations need to definitely happen with them, and actually ask those questions like, what's your source? How did you interpret it in that way? Like, where are you basically getting this information from that you're spreading? That's basically harming lives.
We shouldn't be afraid to say these men need to speak up and start protecting the women in their communities. Of course, women activists are doing incredible work all over the world. There should be an emphasis on the fact that we need men also to start reclaiming the narratives that are being perpetuated in certain communities.
FGM is just a cultural issue.
I hate that statement. I hate it, and I will tell you why I hate that statement. Because people always try and say, oh, I can't get involved in these kind of conversations. I can't really say that FGM is bad because it's not part of my culture, or it belongs to other cultures, so I'm going to suspend my cultural judgment, which is absolute crap.
FGM is just a cultural issue.
She's over it. We're done with this. What does that really mean? That's something that people love to throw around. Culture. Okay, culture can change, cultures shift.
Exactly.
And I think people who are for certain things love to put it under the umbrella of culture, because then it's like you can't challenge it. This is it. Like, this is our culture. This is what we do. It's really important that we do this thing. And sometimes that stuff is not explained. Like, there's no reason for it. And we just say culture so we can put it in that box of like, oh, we don't need to ever change this, or like, this is just how we do things. When really, it doesn't have to be how you do things.
How can you pinpoint it down to a cultural issue? Like, it's not like you can say, oh, it happens a lot or it just happens in, for example, one country which may assimilate to certain culture, but it is literally like all around the world.
To make it a cultural issue, again, I think is propaganda. In that it encourages people to not only not engage with the issue, but to make it an issue for a certain community.
Any other form of abuse, we will say actually that is wrong, and we cannot take part in that, or we cannot actually just turn a blind eye to it. But when it comes to FGM, suddenly it's a cultural issue, and we can't actually say it's a form of abuse.
Ultimately, this is a human rights violation of young women and girls across the globe, and culture shouldn't come in the way of us wanting to tackle that.
Agreed. It's an everybody issue.
Right.
We debunk these because I'm not agreeing with any of these at all. None of them.
That's the end.
Because we may be young, but we tell a lot.